Well, it's clouded up today. It's a bit windier, but we're still in the 20s. I think we may hit 30, 31 degrees today. So, I mean, it's not terribly cold. But I think tomorrow night we're going to get down to single digits again. So, got to be ready for that. Make sure that I got the generator running and got the oil changed and all that. So, I got 10 hours left on this oil. 9, 10 hours, something like that left on this oil. And then I'll run it tonight. And then again in the morning. So, I'll change it after I run it in the morning. Right now, I'm trying, I've told you this many times, to try to keep the generator running for a very long time, you know, like 5,000 hours or something ridiculous. So I just filled the water, but it's a cloudy day, so I had to run the generator to charge the batteries as I was using energy from the batteries to run the well pump. I needed to recharge them, so, but it only takes 15 minutes to fill the water. But if I run the generator for an hour with the eco off, running full RPMs, then I can make sure that that water and that oil and gas in the oil and all that is all evaporated out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the side of the generator. I'm going to touch the dipstick because it's metal to see if it's hot, or at least hotter. It's not going to be boiling hot. Well, it might be at this temperature, I don't know. My calibrated hand, I would say it's about 140 degrees, 150 degrees. So, you know, you can keep your fingers on it for a few seconds. Now I'm going to check, see how many hours on it, because I always check before I shut it off. So we got 6:13. Now I changed it to 5 hours earlier, or early last time. So that means I should be changing it at 6:20. So 6:13 is going to be 6:20, but I want to get back up to the 5, so like 0, 25, 50. So I'm going to change it at 6:23. That'll be 2 hours earlier than 25, and then the next time I can just run it right up to 6:50, and you know, get me back on that 25 hour schedule. The reason I changed it early is because I was going to change it in the middle of the night one time, and I wasn't gonna get up in the middle of the night to change oil, so I just changed it early, and I'm trying to adjust for that. So, as you know, one of the biggest things that my subscribers or viewers, or new viewers especially, hate about my off-grid setup is my water tank. Now here's what I find horribly ironic about that. Is every time I watch a new YouTube channel who's just starting out on their off-grid journey, the one thing they always seem to forget about is water. It's like, oh yeah, I got my tiny house, I got my electric, I got my garden, and I got my farm animals, but I have no way to get water. And they spent no time trying to figure out a water system that would work for them before they started. Now, when I started experimenting with how we were going to deal with water, we were traveling, and so what I had was a bucket, and I took a pump and I put the pump at the bottom of the bucket. You know, I drilled a hole in the bottom of the bucket, or you know, the side of the bottom of the bucket, and I was able to pump water from the RV pump, or from the bucket through an RV pump, or a little, it's actually a garden sprayer pump you put on the back of your lawnmower. And then into a on-demand water heater, a camping water heater. So I had hot water, all from a 5-gallon bucket. That's how this system here evolved. So when we moved onto the place, we took the camper off the back of the truck. It was a truck camper that we built, and we bought this IBC tank. But the IBC tank was just sitting out there in the middle of the yard with that pump, same pump. That I took it off the bucket and put it on the IBC tank. So now instead of a bucket, I have a tank, 275 gallons. So I went from 5 gallons to 275. Same identical setup, except just a bigger tank. Well, I mean, I knew I was going to have a freezing problem when we got into winter, and we did. We had a freezing problem. But every night I would disconnect the hose from the tank and bring it inside so it wouldn't freeze, because that's what we got, is we got a hose coming from the tank to the pump, and then a hose from the pump into the house. So I just disconnected that every night. It was a pain. And then we got the house built. We built this box to put the tank into. And you can see it's a large box. So we put insulation around it, styrofoam insulation. I can show you that real quick. And for the most part, it stays pretty warm. We have gotten down to -4 degrees. There's the insulation there. In the past, without freezing. But every year we have froze, because once we get to that point, it almost snowballs is the best way to put it. It just keeps getting worse, because now we take that well water, it's 55 degrees or whatever it is coming out of the well. We take that well water, that heats the tank up. But the longer we're in this 4-degree weather, or -degree weather, whatever, the colder that tank gets. Now the tank has never froze. And everybody thinks that's what we got to do. We got to take the tank and, I mean, we've gotten a skim of ice on it before, but it's never become a block of water, a block of ice. So as that temperature drops, that means there's less heat inside the box. And eventually the plumbing, the hoses, the RV hoses, freeze up. So we have ventilation coming in from the house into the tank area, and we blow heat, from above the wood stove into here. Now you got to figure that heat is probably only 110 degrees. It's not very hot. So by the time it gets out here, you've dropped down to 40 degrees or so. So when you start getting into those zero temperatures, those cold temperatures overwhelm anything that we can produce from the house. Well, this year I just finally got fed up and tired of dealing with it. Well, actually last year I got tired of it. And I had this old heater. It's a little 200 watt, little bitty heater that I bought when we were traveling, and I heated the camper up with it as we were driving, because there was no way to heat it. So that way we wouldn't, our water wouldn't freeze and that kind of stuff. So I'm using that heater in here as of last year. Well, I don't have enough energy in my batteries at night to run that heater all night off the battery. So I run the generator. And it's been doing really good. I mean, it's extra gas, admittedly, but it is about the same price as replacing the pump. And the other thing is I don't have to stress my batteries at all, because while I'm running the pump, or excuse me, the heater inside here, I can put the batteries on trickle charge. So that means the batteries are staying full capacity through these really frigid temperatures, which everybody knows batteries are just terribly bad for, the cold is just terribly bad for batteries. So I'm keeping them warm and happy and charged. So I'm having a dual purpose with running that generator. So I'm saving money on having to replace batteries. I mean, I'm gonna have to eventually replace them, but I mean, we're here 6 years now, and they're a little bit weaker than they used to be, but they're still pretty good shape. So I'm saving the batteries in these cold temperatures, and I'm running the heat. I shouldn't be moving around. I want to stay here. But anytime I talk about the tank or anything to do with the tank, somebody has a better idea. And every idea, it's like they didn't think it through. And I've talked about this lots of times on this channel, lots of times. They come on the channel, hey, well, you should do this, or if I were you, I'd do this. Well, I mean, I've had it all. One person told me I should put it in the attic. Now, when we built the tiny house, everybody said the tiny house is going to fall down. Yeah, you're not building it right. So now they want me to put, what, 2,500 pounds in an attic that is already supposed to fall down according to the subscribers. So, no, and it's not going to fit. I mean, the attic is just not that big. So, then they told me I needed to build a tower to put the tank on. So I don't use that pump anymore, which I don't understand why I can't have the pump. I mean, that's never made sense to me. Why are people telling me I need to spend thousands of dollars to build a tower when I have a $20 pump that does just as good? So, in order to engage the water heater, you got to have, I think, 30 PSI or something. I forget what it is. Don't quote me. It's been a long time since I've looked it up. But in order to get enough pressure to engage the water heater on a tower, the tower would have to be 69 feet tall. That's exactly what I discovered. It was 69 feet tall. Can you imagine putting anything up in the air 69 feet tall? I mean, you're almost getting to the range now where you probably have to have little spotlights so the planes don't crash into it. And you're trying to put 2,500 pounds on that tower. The beams would have to be massive. I mean, absolutely massive. Just to hold that much weight. Well, then the first thing I would have to do is I'd have to replace the well pump, because the well pump is 15 gallons a minute at so many feet. Well, the pump's already 100 feet down. So now we're going to add, from the height of the well over here, which is probably 5 feet lower than what I am here, plus the box, so let's just call it 10 feet. So we're at 110 feet here. Now we add another 69 feet that pump's got to travel up to fill the well, or excuse me, to fill the tank. The pump isn't strong enough to do it, so now I'm gonna have to get a bigger pump, which means now I have to get bigger inverter, more solar panels, more batteries. I just as well hook up to the electric grid, because I wouldn't be able to do it. And then when you think about the structure itself, I watched a YouTube video, and he probably only had his tank 15 feet high. So, I mean, he wasn't getting any pressure into the house. First windstorm that came by, knocked it right over. It was a YouTube off-gridder. I mean, I've seen off-gridders do all kinds of things when it comes to water, but my water system, which has never failed, is criticized the most. I saw one guy, you could tell he was duplicating me. He bought the same exact pump I had, the IBC tank, and he stuck the hose down the top of it and turned it on, and it didn't suck any water, because this particular pump doesn't do any sucking. It only does pumping. You have to actually push the water, so you hook the pump to the bottom. So there again, I've demonstrated what you have to do, but somebody decides, oh no, that idiot, he doesn't know what he's talking about. You stick the hose down the top of it. And then when he's in the middle of the desert, trying to get water out of his tank, it doesn't work. So what does he say? Well, I guess I gotta drive to town. Yeah, you gotta drive to town. If you'd have done it before you started your off-grid adventure and thought about water, then you wouldn't have to be driving to town, because I told you what you had to do. You just didn't listen. So, again, last night, somebody commented, new subscriber, never seen them before, or new commenter, says, if I were you, well, you're not me, okay? Because you would fail, and I'm not. If I were you, I would take the tank inside. You would. Into a house that's 12 by 16 feet. You're going to take, what, a 4-foot box by a 4-foot box and take up a huge corner of your house. There's no place to put it. I mean, heck, the bed takes up most of the house. Then I got the wood stove, the freezer, the shower, you know, all those things that you got to have in a house. Now you want me to put this huge tank into it. Now let's look at something, you geniuses. Is you got a box here that's 4 feet wide, but then you got a door that's what, 3.5 feet wide? You're not gonna get it through the door. But if I were you, I get so frustrated. Now, I will admit, there was somebody, a genius, who replied to that comment. So I left the comment, I didn't take it down. And she said the same exact thing I just said. It ain't gonna work. So instead of you telling me how to live off grid, since you've never done it, if you want to live off grid, the best bet would be to pay attention to what off gridders are doing. Pay the attention to the ones that are successful, and pay attention to the ones that have messed up. In either one of those videos, you're going to learn something. Instead of telling people, if I were you, well, you go and do it, and I'll watch your video of you failing out in the middle of the desert, 100 miles from nowhere, thinking, well, that guy said we could use this pump, but it's not working. Well, it's not working because you didn't listen. You didn't pay attention because you were too busy saying, if I were you. Well, good luck. But don't come to my comment section telling me I'm an idiot when you can't even get a tank through the door. So if you click this up next box, take the video over to my other channel. I'd appreciate it. Go check it out. So if I can inspire you not to be me, so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.